We start, of course, on Capitol Hill, where lawmakers are scrambling to figure out a way to keep the government lights on through the holidays. About 30 minutes from now, House Speaker Mike Johnson will try to sell his colleagues on what we are now told is a three-part plan to fund the government and do so through March. Now, one notable aspect as of now is that it does not include what the president-elect Donald Trump had wanted in the first place, which is a plan to raise the debt ceiling now. CNN's Manu Raju joins me from Capitol Hill. Tell us more about this plan, and the obvious question is, will he have enough votes to pass it?
Yeah, that is the big question, but we now know they are settling on a plan to essentially move these pieces of legislation separately. Remember, this is all tied together as one big package to keep the government open, along a whole wide range of other issues. Roughly $100 billion in aid for natural disasters that have hit across the country, aid directly to farmers who have been hit by bad conditions and the like. And Donald Trump injecting that last toxic effort to raise or suspend the national debt limit. He asked for that in the 11th hour. That scuttled that bipartisan deal earlier this week. But we are now learning, according to our sources inside a closed-door meeting with the Speaker of the House, that they plan to separate out each of these bills and move them individually. That would include a 3-month extension of government funding, a $100 billion disaster relief package, and a $10 billion farm package. Now, here's the other catch. That push by Donald Trump to suspend the national debt limit will be set aside because they simply do not have the votes to move it ahead. That's because of opposition, not just from Democrats who believe that they would allow Donald Trump to move his agenda next year if they were to agree to that now, but also conservative Republicans who don't want to raise the national debt limit. So now this is the big question. Will Democrats support this? Because Democratic support is necessary. And I caught up with Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic leader, ahead of a closed-door meeting, and he indicated for the first time in recent days that negotiations are ongoing.
Lines of communication have been reopened. We're going to do everything we can to avoid a catastrophic government shutdown.
Do you think that there's any appetite at all to give Republicans something on the debt limit?
On the debt limit?
Yeah.
No.
It's a total red line for you.
Yeah. Because here's the thing. The debt limit, the reason he's trying to do that is so that he can pass Trump tax scam 2.0 next year and not have to worry about the fact that it's going to drive up the debt by another several $1 trillion.
So this would force, given the Democratic opposition to the debt limit and also conservative Republican opposition, Donald Trump will essentially have to concede on what he has been demanding for the last couple of days. The question is, how will Trump react to this? I am told that there's going to be a Republican agreement to try to move on the debt limit next year, not deal with it this year. And Dana, where will the votes ultimately come down? The other discussion is, will they vote tonight on this using a procedure that would require 2/3 majority of the House to advance it, meaning a lot of Democrats are to support each of these individual bills in this separate vote strategy, or wait till tomorrow and try to do it along party lines or during a separate procedure. That would be past the shutdown deadline at midnight tonight. They plan to huddle behind closed doors at 12:30 Eastern, Dana, to try to figure out their way forward.
This is a movie with way too many sequels. I think we're done with this kind of theme, this kind of film. Thank you so much, Manu. Appreciate your reporting. Come back if you get any news, of course. And I'm lucky to be surrounded by a talented group of reporters, CNN's Jeff Zeleny, CNN's Lauren Fox, who, of course, was on Capitol Hill all morning, and Zolan Kano-Young of the New York Times. Lauren, I'll start with you. This three-part strategy to do it in bills that are separate in order to give Democrats and Republicans the ability to vote on different things. Can you explain why that matters, particularly when it comes to the bottom line at this point, which is keeping the government running?
There are probably some conservatives who hail from areas that were affected by the hurricane who want to make sure that they have an opportunity to vote for legislation to help their states and their districts. I think that is part of the strategy here. I also think part of it is just getting as many votes as you can on the items that people agree on and breaking this down. There was also some entertainment of whether or not they would add the debt ceiling as a separate vote as part of this. Clearly, that's not the strategy that they're contending with, but that was another way to sort of try to satisfy Donald Trump. So right now, I think this is one of those sort of, it's all the same bill, but it just looks a little different than it was before operations. Sometimes that works on Capitol Hill.
But some of the, correct me if I'm wrong, and maybe we don't know this yet, but some of the funding for programs like kids with cancer and so forth, is that going to stay in here, or we just don't know yet?
I think the early reports are this is the slimmed down version of what that Tuesday plan was.
Okay,
that
so
is
no.
the early indication. And I do think that for some Democrats, that could be a reason to vote no.
Let's just talk about the politics of this, because there's so many different facets to what happened and what is happening as we speak, and what it portends for in January, when there truly is full across the board Republican control. What is your read on it? What's your analysis of that?
Look, the analysis of it, clearly the first share of the blame rests with Speaker Johnson. By not having this sort of locked up early in the week, there were signs that this was going to be a problem over the weekend. And not just from, there's been, I think, kind of a misnarrative that, that the Democratic goodies are in here, which is true. But there was also, as you reported, a lot of farm state Republicans who were wanting farm aid in there and hurricane assistance. So there was a lot of grumbling. I started hearing it Sunday and Monday from Republicans about Speaker Johnson and his staff, that they simply did not sort of get this going. But I'm still struck by the image last Saturday at the Army-Navy football game when the president-elect, the vice president-elect, Elon Musk, Speaker Johnson, and Senator Thune were in the same space. I mean, watching this football game in a suite at Northwest Stadium here, just miles from the Capitol, and this was not a part of the discussion. They were already looking beyond this. So then why did Donald Trump get involved in this at all? He could have kept his hands clean from this. Was he sort of dragged in by Elon Musk? Was he following him? Was Elon Musk sort of the canary in the coal mine here? I think my biggest question going out of this is, A, does Speaker Johnson survive in January? But B, what does this do to the long-term Trump-Musk relationship? I'm not sure we know that yet.
You mean,
because there's been
with each other?
With each other, because I think there's been a lot of conversation about this is President-elect Musk leading the way here. And we know that that could at some point get under Donald Trump's skin. He could be a good foil for this in the moment, but that's my biggest question going forward into next year. What does the Trump-Musk relationship do from here? We'll see.
And is it also a test, an early test of Trump's grip on Republicans in Congress too? Yes, he's going to have, Republicans will have unified control here, but I mean, I remember a time where he issues a threat like he did, an electoral threat of anyone who doesn't vote on this bill that I'm supporting last night will be primaried. And most of the time you might have people fall in line. And for some Republicans, that wasn't the case.
There were 38 of them.
Right.
And conservative members.
That's a large number.
Right.
Like, especially when you look at the
a good
past year,
point.
we often talk about how Trump has this grip, on the party and on Congress. And to see that opposition, yes, it involves something like raising the debt ceiling, which is obviously something that many of those Republicans care about. But
And what we're seeing on the screen are the faces of the 38 Republicans who voted no last night on a Trump-backed package after he and Elon Musk scuttled the bipartisan package. And the package that they all voted no on included increasing the debt ceiling. And this is what you just mentioned is the core of what I'm frankly kind of obsessed with when it comes to the politics of all of this, which is if you talked before 3 days ago, if you talked to people in and around the Speaker, in and around John Thune, the Republican leaders in the Congress, they would argue that because Donald Trump is so popular in the party, because he has a lot of political capital, that it would be hard to see enough Republicans, rank and file Republicans, defying him. They were talking about like in the next year, in 2025, and it just happened already before he's even president. And the reason is because of the battle that Donald Trump picked on the debt ceiling, on something that is fundamental to where this movement started, which is in the Tea Party, anti-big government spending. And those kind of Republicans sort of were subsumed by MAGA and Trumpism, but they still very much have a North Star of, I'm not going to mess around with the debt and the deficit.
Yeah, I mean, I talked to one of those House Republicans last night when they were getting off the floor, and they said it was a tough vote, but at the end of the day, they got to vote with what they came to Congress to do, which is cut and slash and burn debt. The other thing that is starting to seep through a little bit is Republicans don't know if Donald Trump's going to have their back. And so if it is fundamentally not something they want to do, the pressure from Donald Trump and knowing that he might change his mind in a week and a half, that is starting to eat away at his power over some of these Republicans. Dan Crenshaw made this point to me yesterday. He said, we would be willing to eat a crap sandwich, and yet we are not sure Donald Trump is going to stick with us at the end of the day. And so we can't.